Our truck is way the hell down there. We are at Franklin Mountain State Park, and we are going to hike up to the Aztec Cave. It's a 1.2 mile round trip hike, so it seems to be all uphill. So I would not rate this an easy trail, even though it's a short one. This 1.2 mile trail is kicking our ass. In the last, I don't know, maybe a third of a mile, we've probably climbed straight up 400 feet. Well, not straight, 400 feet in elevation, that would be my guess. Well, the French family that passed us has already turned around and gone back. And they did not find the end of the trail. They just got to a point where they couldn't go any further and turned around and headed back down, which is going to be a challenge in and of itself. Because that's where my fear of heights is really going to kick my ass. Yeah. And the French family was in a lot better shape than we are. And this is as high as we got. Our truck is way the hell down there. And I'm going to have to cope with the fear of heights all the way down to the bottom. I think that's enough of a challenge for me.
The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo settled the boundary between the U.S. and Mexico, or so the high school history textbooks say. The truth is a lot more fuzzy and not helped by the Rio Grande's propensity to change course. During the first half of the 20th century, a handful of attempts were made to fix the border through a region of Chamizal brush known as El Chamizal. The dispute ended peacefully in 1964 through the joint efforts of Presidents Mateos and Johnson. The memorial was built to commemorate the peaceful resolution to a century-old border dispute.
So this is our last night at Hueco Tanks. The RV spots are really level, front to back and side to side, which is hard to find. And there's a lot of room between them. We weren't able to do, or Dean wasn't able to do any night photography last night because we are parked on the loop with the restroom. And there is a very bright light on the restroom that interferes with nighttime photography. But the wildlife has been abundant. Last night we had a visitor to our campsite. We're not really sure what it was, but it made an awful lot of noise. I mentioned one of the downsides to camping at Hueco Tanks. Let's talk about the positives. For one thing, the RV area, or the camping area, because they also have tent camping, is only accessible to campers. The folks that come to Hueco Tanks for day use don't have access to the campsite. They also close the gates and lock them at 8 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Sorry, I'm thinking 1800. They lock them at 6. And they don't reopen them until 8 in the morning. They give you an emergency code in case you have a medical emergency. Other than that, the gates don't open, which that can be a challenge if you're going to be exploring El Paso, but you can work around it. We didn't have too much difficulty visiting the things that we wanted to visit while we were here. The last point that I can think of, and if I think of any more, I'll be sure and mention them, but this is the Chihuahuan Desert. So it's comfortable during the day in October, but it gets cold at night. Bring layers. We did not come prepared. We ended up spending a little bit more than we intended to for me to be comfortable. And that was the Davis Mountains. I think I'm going to do a haul video just of our state park swag from this trip. But yes, definitely bring layers. We left, you may remember from one of our first videos from this trip, that the gutter seal on our trailer came loose before we got to Abilene State Park, and we haven't had an opportunity to fix it yet. Rabbit in the road ahead. So sounded like a total squirrel moment. No, it was a rabbit moment. Dean's hunting for wildlife on our sunset trip. Hunting with a 300 to 500 millimeter telephoto lens. What was I saying? Oh yes, you may remember that the seal on our gutter came loose on the way to Abilene State Park. So what we've done at Davis Mountain State Park and here is just leave the windows open during the day. And the reason for that being that mostly what the gutter does, and if you have an RV you probably know this, the main purpose for the gutter is to handle the runoff from the condensation on the air conditioning unit. So no seal on the gutter means don't run the air conditioning unit. But we've been perfectly comfortable during the day when we're actually here in our camper during the day with the windows open. At night, you definitely want to close them and probably run the heater for a little bit. And if you are camping at Hueco Tanks, be sure if you go to take a stroll at around sunset like we are, or whenever, stay on the roads, because the Huecos And the petroglyphs on the Huecos are very delicate. Access to the park is controlled. They only allow a certain number of people in every day. If you have a reservation for a spot, you can go ahead and reserve access. The North Mountain is open to the public without a guide. The other mountains are by guide only, guided tour only. The tours take about 3 hours. So make all the jokes you want about a 3-hour tour. You are in the middle of the Chihuahuan Desert, so no worries about the SS Minnow.